Welcome to the Art Studio. I'm Osnat, and we're going to get inspired by the artist Claude Monet and his Japanese garden. I'm going to look at his famous painting, The Water Lily Pond, that was painted in 1900. We're going to look at the way that he painted with color, with light, and how he intertwined all these different tones together. So let's get started. Let's have a little look at Monet's garden painting. So Monet was a French artist that lived at the end of the 19th century, and he painted what he was seeing, which is called the Impressionist movement. The Impressionists painted what the artist's impression was, rather than the reality exactly how it is, which means he also added his own different special colors into his composition. So we're going to have fun with mixing colors, using different brushes, and painting this beautiful, great masterpiece by Monet. Let's have a little look at the paints I've got here and my brushes. So I've set up my palette. You can also use a paper plate at home to lay out all your different colors. I have the white, lemon yellow, orange, red, a bit of a pinky magenta, blue, purple, and green. So you can see I almost have all the colors of the rainbow, because even though it's a painting of the garden, we're going to intertwine all these different special colors as an addition to the greens and blues, which we'll usually find in the garden. Also, I'm using a range of different brushes. I've got the thin brushes, which are round, and I also have the flat brushes for different brush marks and different areas. I'm going to get started with a pencil and doing the sketch of my composition. The composition is the structure of my drawing. So I'm going to start with just one line across for the horizon line. That's where the pond ends and the rest of the bush is starting. Next, I'm going to do the bridge. Nice short lines to draw the bridge, the curve. Now I can add some vertical lines. And a little bit of marking the area of the bush here. There's another bush here in the foreground. And everything else is going to be created with paint and brushes. Let's add a little bit of thickness to the bridge as well. Beautiful. So I'm going to get into my mixing. I like using a few brushes in the same time so I can blend the colors together. But before I'm doing that, I'm going to use the flat brush to paint a flat color for my background. I'm going to start with the lemon yellow and a bit of green. Make a nice slimy green. And I can use that here at the top. Just coloring in these areas. That's it, nice and easy. It's okay if you get over your pencil marks a little bit. We can still see them. We don't want to paint over the whole bridge, but if you get over the edges, that's okay. We'll repaint the bridge later on. Getting a bit more paint. Maybe I can mix a little bit of water into my mix. Not too much. All right, I've got a nice limey green. I'm gonna clean my brush. You also need a cloth to dry your brush after it's been cleaned in water, because we don't want to have too much water on the brush and let it drip over the painting. So that's why we need a cloth. So a jar of water, a cloth, and a little palette for your paints, and a couple of brushes. All right, a bit of white with a touch of blue. And let's paint this beautiful pond. Later on, we're going to add some lilies. And we're also going to look at the reflection of everything in the garden, how it's reflected into the water, and creates this beautiful movement on the water, the sparkling sun, and so on. All right. Pretty simple so far, isn't it? Let's get into maybe a bit of an orange on this side here. I know the bush is not that color, but I'm just going to use that beautiful bright color as a base. So later on, when I'm going to add the green leaves and the red marks, it's going to look quite nice underneath. I'm going to use a dark green for this bush here in the foreground. Make sure you load your brush with loads of paint, so it's nice and flowy. It's much more fun to paint when your brush is loaded with paint. Nice and juicy and not too dry, not too watery. I'll just complete this little section here. So you see how we've divided our canvas to the main structure, the main shapes, and we're just coloring a flat tone to begin with. I'll use a bit of white and pink just for these areas here, so I can make it vibrant already from my first coat. That's great, guys. If you need a little bit more time, you can stop the video and finish your flat color before moving into the next step. My next step is going to be mixing different colors so I can start blending them on my canvas. I'm going to start with the top area here with the bush and mixing a few different greens. So I'm going to have a light green, a medium green, and also a dark green. Bit of blue will make it a bit darker. Don't need much. So now I've got 3 brushes, light, mid-tone, and dark, and I'm going to paint with all of them together in the same time, rotating my brushes. I'll start with the dark green, just laying down some little lines. Bit more water. If it doesn't feel that it's flowing, mix a little bit more water into your paint. Oh, that's better. Awesome. So just putting that through, leaving gaps in between so I can weave my other 2 greens. That's probably good. Then I'm going to go into my mid green. Just like that, in between those first marks. And it's already starting to look nice and greeny and flowy. And then my light green, which actually has quite a bit of yellow because I want it to stand out on top of my two other greens. And you can see how I'm filling those gaps in between the former two greens. Just like that. It's okay if you're going on top of it as well. Great, there's some other colors there, which we're going to add a little bit later. Maybe we can add a bit of light greens here over the pink. And that makes the pink come through from underneath. So I'm not covering it completely. I'm just adding another lovely tone, maybe a few little marks. You can see if I'm not going to press on my brush, I can get really, really thin little lines which look lovely. So you can take your time. You don't have to paint quickly. Take your time, enjoy the process, enjoy the painting. Look at the detail and the edges. Bit of dark over here. But on this side, I'm going to leave a little bit more of the pink showing. Let's move into the pond. So I'm going to clean my brushes. Wipe them well. And let's go into some blues. I got the light blue here that I mixed before. I might add a little bit more into it. And also have a bit of a dark blue over here. All right, starting with the dark blue. This time I'm going in a different direction. So I'm doing more horizontal marks to show the movement on the water. Then the light blue. Again, I'm weaving those colors in between. Some of them will go on top of the other blues. Some of them will be next to it. And that's how the Impressionist painted, in short strokes, little marks, and with loads of different colors together. So that's how they got this beautiful effect. Just a bit on the edge here. All right, that looks good already. Next, let's look at those two bushes on the side. I'm going to go back to my green, a bit of dark green. And this time again, I'm doing different marks, more round and flowing to show that it's growing out. And I want to also create a variety of different directions of marks in my painting. So it's going to look more interesting. A bit of a light green on top. So same like we did in this area up here. I'm just doing it on top of the orange. And you can see how beautiful it looks with the orange coming through. So I'm leaving little holes into the orange for this bush. I'm going to add a little bit of green here on the water because that's going to show the reflection of this bush on this water. Back into my dark green and this one in the front. I can even darken it even more. More blue, maybe a touch of purple. and green to make it even darker. And I'll make it this one going from the middle out. Can use a thinner brush as well to have thinner lines. So this bush is the closest to us. So we're going to use two contrasting colors, a bit of red and green, which are complementary colors. They are like black and white, opposites. Yeah, that looks quite nice with the red. It's really coming forward in the foreground of my picture, and it looks that I have nice depth, and this area here of the bridge is further back in the picture. All right, let's add some lilies. For my lilies, I can use red and white. I can also use this magenta, which is lovely. And also a bit of purple with white. Get this beautiful violet lilac. And you can start with doing little dots this time. Little dots. Different areas. We don't have to put them everywhere. We're just going to put them together in little sections. Maybe I can put a few little purpley marks up here to show that there's some flowers growing in this bush at the back as well. And it's going to make my garden look rich and vibrant and colorful. Bit of pink next, pink dots for my lilies. Painting is fun, something you can do at home when you want to get creative and have a little bit of space just for yourself. Or maybe you can invite a friend and you can paint together. I'm going to add a little bit of pink here at the top. Again, little dots maybe, some flowers. And you can add any color you like as well, maybe some orange and yellow, any beautiful flowery colors that you would like for your garden. Nice. Now the magenta, which is a bright pink. If you don't have magenta, you can just mix white and red, and just add a little bit more red, so your pink is going to be darker. Got loads of lilies happening now. A few more dots here of the beautiful hot pink. And now I'd like to add a little bit of orange. Orange is a beautiful, vibrant color. And I can just add a few little lines here for the reflection. And you see how beautiful and colorful everything is becoming the more you're weaving colors together. It looks rich and beautiful, colorful, joyful, maybe a bit of orange and yellow over here. So the yellow is a beautiful bright color. It's just going to add a little bit of fun, celebration to all the other colors. Bit of orange here. Okay, I think we're almost ready to get into our bridge, and then we can finish everything off with some highlights. All right, if you want a little bit of green as well on the water here and there, reflection of those leaves. Especially around this area here where the bush and the water meet. We can add a little bit more green. Okay, so for the bridge, I'm going to use some purple, a bit of white, and also I can add a little bit of green into it, so it makes it slightly darker. So when you get to the bridge, you probably want to do it nice and slow. If your paintbrush feels dry, go back to your palette, load your brush with more paint, and keep going nice and slow, because this is your final painting on the bridge. It's going on top of everything you've done so far, so you want it to look good. Okay, and everyone's bridge can look a little bit different. I think the most important is that we want to have nice lines and also a bit of that curve. I'm going to add the middle line now. All right, lovely. So next, I'm going to add some highlights with white, which is going to bring to life the bridge, the water, everything, just with a bit of white. Same like in nature, when the light is reflecting on different surfaces, and especially on the water. So let's add a few highlights on the bridge, just in a few places that you choose. Nice, it also makes it connect with the background and everything else. And now let's add some highlights on the water. Again, doesn't have to be everywhere. We're just going to find a few areas that we want to make them pop and stand out. So here, maybe a little bit here. It's okay if it mixes with the other colors, if they're not completely dry. It actually looks nice. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. I think that looks lovely. We have a beautiful pond, the lilies, the bridge, and a beautiful garden. So keep practicing, keep painting, and have fun with it.